you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about the official trailer that came out for the DMC, or Devil May Cry anime on Netflix. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description. Obviously, one of the big things right off the bat, and I'd actually completely forgotten about this until Dante opened his mouth, was like, right, yeah, the weird thing of Johnny Young Bosch is voicing Dante in this, and that's so weird. You know, that's going to probably take some getting used to. But another thing that crossed my mind immediately was, okay, I'm curious where this is taking place timeline-wise. There's aspects to it that feel like, okay, it's Devil May Cry timeline adjacent, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be canonical to the games. Simply because at first I'm like, well, it definitely feels like it might be post 3 with just how Dante looks aesthetically in his face was like, well, that kind of looks like how he looked in 3, like on the more younger side. 3 and 1 type of young Dante, but his aesthetic, his clothes and stuff specifically kind of feels like maybe 3 timeline wise ish, because I know like in 3 he doesn't wear the shirt under the jacket, he has just the jacket, so but he's wearing like a gray t-shirt underneath, so that's why I was bringing that up. But also we have the appearance of Lady, but it's not post 3 because it seems like Dante and Lady in this are adversarial. Not unless they're changing some stuff and making it so that like they went back to being adversary, but it seems like she has beef with Dante because she shoots him and because she's like, oh, I don't deal with devils, and she ripped off his shirt and saw that I think from the gunshot wound he was fine. So she doesn't know about his constitution, so it must mean like, okay, so this has to be the early like interaction. So it's kind of, it seems like it's just going to be its own thing. It's not necessarily canonical. You're going to take stuff from the DMC, Devil May Cry franchise, and you're just going to do your own thing with it. It seems like it's going, you know, pretty much an adaptation in that capacity. Because it's also interesting too, because it seems like she's kind of part of like the police force, which is so interesting because like when you're introduced to Lady, she's just doing her own thing. Which I think is so fascinating, but it seemed like, and she also had like this tech suit, I guess, to kind of give her the upper edge against demons and stuff, so I thought that was interesting. And that aspect is interesting too, because like there being like regular humans that are coming after Dante at one point in time is weird, because I'm like, oh, that doesn't really come up too much in the franchise. I want to say the only game that ever did it was like DMC Devil May Cry. I mean, this probably feels like it's going to be a thing of it takes a little from every bit of Devil May Cry, like the canonical stuff and even like the rebooted like DMC Devil May Cry. They'll probably take stuff from in some capacities, because another thing I was wondering too, like I brought up, like timeline wise, where does this take place? Because we only see Lady, I feel like I would have remembered if we saw Trish, not unless she popped up in a different trailer or something, but we only saw like Dante and Lady, so that must mean like, because I know even though the games didn't come out in that order, I know canonically speaking the order is like 3, 1, 4, 5, 2. Still, I don't know where 2 stands in the canon anymore, but definitely like 3 predates 1, so like maybe canonically speaking in this time frame, even though it might be its own thing, he hasn't met Trish yet, so that might be how they go about it. The main antagonist, the kind of rabbit demon dude, he definitely reminds me a little bit of, I don't remember his name, was it like Arkham? Or it was something with an A, wasn't it? The main, like, kind of pseudo-main antagonist of 3 was, spoilers? If I'm remembering this correctly, it was Lady's dad, right? Because I know at one, like, I know another character in that game was like that jester demon, and that ended up being Lady's dad in like disguise or whatever. But he kind of gives me that, the rabbit leader kind of gives me that same vibe. I mean, tonally speaking, like I said, it feels like Devil May Cry, but it feels like out of any like tone, it feels like it would fit the most with 3, but also mixing in a little bit of the anime, which that was something I was curious about too, like the anime from like years and years and years ago, which to be fair, I don't remember it as well because I saw that like I said, I've only seen it once, and that was many years ago. But if I remember correctly, that was like very case of the week. There was some overarching story, but it was very much like, oh, these are the different cases Dante's working on episode by episode. It's interesting to see that obviously this has a very narrative, like overarching. It feels more like a Devil May Cry game than like maybe the anime, the previous anime iteration was, you know, because every game is pretty much Dante working on one case. You never see like the other cases he ends up working on, which the anime kind of gave you a feel of that. This gives you more of like I said, feel more like the game where it's just one giant like case slash adventure. If I remember correctly, there are novels. I don't remember there are manga, but I'm pretty sure there are novels. I don't know if they're considered canon or not. I've never read them, so I'm not that familiar with them. So, but that was just kind of popping in my mind of like, there's probably other like stuff besides even just the games that some of this could pull from lore-wise. I kept bringing up 3 in comparison. It is really interesting that we're doing the whole like, well, the demon world is bleeding over into the real world. It's an invasion. And it's like, well, you see that the most prominently in, I mean, well, I guess it technically happens in 4, but it's mainly like 3 and 5, where it's specifically entire city. You know, 4 is basically on its own island. It's kind of like, kind of a, well, it's on its own island, but it is its own city, but it's just very much like a culty type of place, where it's like, you know, 3 and 5, it's like, no, it's a full-blown city being invaded by the demon world. So it feels more like that with everything, but it's just like, especially leaning into like the craziness, the wildness of like I said, and seeing like the human resistance element to it, which I feel like we don't really get to see too much. It's been a while, so I might be misremembering in 5. I don't think that ever, I think you saw a little bit of the human resistance, but I don't think you saw it too much. So to kind of see that side of things, I mean, hell, even one of the main antagonists is using a rocket launcher at one point in time. It's like, that's crazy to look at and see. So some very, very fascinating stuff. Obviously, like I brought up previously, I'm curious to see, like, well, will we get very much in the video game fashion of, oh, Dante defeats a demon and they become a weapon. The only weapon we've seen him use in the trailer was Ebony and Ivory and Rebellion, so we don't know if that's going to be an element to this or not. There's the last shot of the trailer which he's like high in the air and we see him, it looked like he was going Devil Trigger, so I'm curious to see what that looks like. I don't even remember, like, I think he does it at the end of the previous anime adaptation, but I'm like, I don't remember what that looked like, because obviously his Devil Trigger, you know, changes from game to game too, depending in a lot of ways, so I'm curious to see what that looks like. Once again, I just assume aesthetically it's probably going to look like 3, but to be fair, I have not played some of the older games in a very, very long time, so I don't even fully remember what his Devil Trigger looked like in 3, because I know it probably looks somewhat probably similar to what it looked like in 4 and 5, but even then, it's just, once again, my memory's a little vague on those details. I know Adi Shankar is behind the Castlevania series, but I've never watched any of those. Just because I've never had any attachment to the Castlevania games, because I've never played any of them, so I've been less inclined to ever watch them, even though I've heard nothing but good things about them. Obviously, I'm way more inclined to watch this because I am a massive Devil May Cry fan, so that's why I'm like, I have a better understanding, you know, that's why I'm probably going, like, if I was more familiar with what they did with Castlevania in comparison to the games, I'd probably go into this Devil May Cry having a better idea what they're going for. I mean, the trailer, like I said, gave me a pretty good idea, but like I said, if I watched the Castlevania series, I probably have an even better idea going into this what to expect with what their approach to this. And there's probably information out there like how they're approaching Devil May Cry. I've just never read into it, and I kind of don't want to know. I decided to watch the trailer just to kind of get a feeling vibe, and I got what I wanted. What, like I said, it left enough open to be like, ooh, what are they doing with that? What are they doing with this? Or are they changing this? Like I said, is this going to be considered canon, or is it going to be like very loose canon, or is it going to be like, no, we're taking what you know and we're kind of doing our own thing? So, you know, a lot of those questions I'll get answered once the series actually comes out, but I'm very, very excited to see, you know, once again, what they do with it and what stuff from the Devil May Cry franchise as a whole. Like I said, I get the feeling they'll probably pull stuff from even DMC Devil May Cry, but hey, maybe I'll be wrong. But I'm curious to see what stuff they apply and put into this, and, you know, once again, what's technical canon, what's not, stuff like that. So obviously, this is just me rambling, sharing my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What do you want from this series? What do you expect from this series? Just let me know all your thoughts. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.